Joining me now, I have Dr. Lindsey Burke with the Center for Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, you are recently looking at a study about civics education. The concern is that our American students really aren't getting a civics education. Isn't that right?
That's right. We conducted a nationally representative survey of over 1,000 teachers and more than 1,000 parents and asked them about their opinions about the amount of civics education students are receiving and the quality. And about 2/3 of parents and nearly 3/4 of teachers wanted to see a greater emphasis on civics. But where there was some disconnect was that both groups, about 1/3 of each group, were not satisfied with the type of civics content that is currently being taught. And I think that's what's really interesting. Families want more civics education, and they're not necessarily satisfied with the type of instruction their children's schools are currently providing.
When you talk about the type of instruction, I mean, we have some people, we had the 1776 Commission, they were looking at civics education, but we also have the 1619 Project looking at what they believe is civics education. So when you talk about the type, how does it change? I mean, isn't civics?
Yeah. Right. Well, right now, of course, we have seen a big push across the country for critical race theory to be taught in schools. And so we ask about CRT, the opinions of both parents and teachers in the survey. And in our survey, about 35% of parents said that they're familiar with critical race theory, and about 43% of teachers said that they were familiar with it. And so again, where we have a disconnect is between whether they're familiar and whether they support it. So among all parents in our survey, only 26% had a positive view of critical race theory. And among teachers in the survey, among those who were familiar with it, over half, about 55%, had a positive view of critical race theory. And I think this is really interesting when you contrast critical race theory with what parents say they want civics to reflect in schools. Both parents and teachers in our survey said the number one thing that they think civics should teach is the study and the rights and duties of citizenship, that should be the primary focus rather than things like critical race theory.
So in your study, you have some suggestions, and one of those suggestions is that parents are actually teaching civics at home. So a lot of parents may feel a little overwhelmed by that. How do they do that? Are there resources? How do they effectively teach their children? It's almost like they're supplementing their own child's education. Right. How do you suggest that happen?
Well, it was really interesting to see the high number of parents who said that they want to engage more on their own in their children's civics instruction. And thankfully, there are lots of great resources out there today, resources that have been made by groups like the Ashbrook Center. You mentioned the 1776 Project as well, which is excellent. There's also the James Madison Institute and the Bill of Rights Institute. All of these organizations are providing really fantastic civics content and curriculum, both for families to use, but also teachers as well. And many of these groups are also providing teacher training in civics as well. And, I think at the end of the day, it's not only that there are the tools out there that parents can leverage, but parents really should make their voices heard with their local school boards as well. There are about 100,000 school board members across the country and about 14,000 local school districts. And of course, there are school board meetings that these districts hold regularly. So parents really should engage more with them, tell their local school district to be transparent about the curriculum that they're using and about their textbooks. That was another really important data point, that parents highly value transparency and want more of it in their schools. So, not only working more on your own on civics instruction with your children, but then really participating in those local school board meetings as well, and making your voices heard is so important.
It's something we've heard so often lately on this program. We've had multiple people come on and say, don't just get involved with your school board meetings, run for school board, get involved, be a part of it. This is the best way to make change or understand what's going on in the school. One more thing I wanted to ask you about. I think reading through this, I thought I saw that a lot of the parents also said they didn't feel like they had the strongest civics lessons when they were in school. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And so this is not a new problem. Unfortunately, right now, we are seeing a pretty significant shift toward things like action civics rather than a traditional teaching of civics. So students being taught to be activists and to protest before they have that really foundational understanding, practical information and guidance on how to carry out the duties of a citizen in a free republic. So while that's a new phenomenon in part, civics education in general has not been very strong for a long time. So it was not surprising to us to see that reflected in the data as well.
Yeah, I have to say, even myself as an adult, I did a lot of research on my own because I felt the same way. And in schools now, we see, this may be wrong, but I think in my area, we've been told that our kids are getting tested on reading and math. That's where we're going to put our focus. And that ultimately makes those civics courses kind of fall by the wayside. Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's a good argument that the broad standards-based reform movement that ultimately led to No Child Left Behind in 2001 really did put a major focus on math and reading achievement, which isn't a bad thing in and of itself, but many have argued that that may have meant a minimization of civics instruction, foreign language instruction, the sciences, things that are outside of the daily scope of those math and reading assessments.
Yeah, when dollars are connected to reading and math, that's where all the effort goes in. Thank you, Dr. Lindsey Burke. We appreciate having you on, and she is with the Center for Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Awesome information you had today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.